Hi, I'm Ramesh Ranjan, the editor and founder of humanengineers.com, a popular HR website that deals with managing the people side of business. Welcome you to this show, People at Work, a program where we try and engage with business, HR, and thought leaders to try and understand how they leverage the people potential in the organizations and make the most of their people. It is by now well established that people are the most competitive advantage an organization has. And when you look back in history and see the evolution of management, we have realized much of some of the best practices have been drawn from the armed forces, especially during the two world wars, World War I and World War II. The Indian Army is one of the largest in the world, largest in terms of the number of people employed and in terms of geographical spread and the resources that it has at its disposal. We have a lot to learn from the Indian Armed Forces as to how we've been able to be successful in the many wars that we have fought since the independence in 1947. We are fortunate today to have a decorated soldier from the Indian Armed Forces, Narendra Nair, who passed out from the National Defense Academy, Khadakwasla, Pune, has done his postgraduate in business management from the Symbiosis Institute of Management, Pune, has done various executive development programs from the Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, the Kenan Flagler Business School, and the International Institute of Management and Development in Lausanne, Switzerland. He's a decorated Army officer, having served in the Indian Army for more than 10 years. He served in the 11th Gurkha Rifles Regiment and was part of the Operation Vijay, popularly known as the Kargil War. Unfortunately, he underwent a major accident in the war. He was injured and then he moved on to the private sector. He's a recipient for his bravery of the Shaurya Chakra Award from the President of India. He has worked in very reputed organizations like German Remedies, Zydus, Syngent, Eaton Corporation, Schneider Electric, and is currently the Executive Vice President and CHRO of Voltas Limited. He has been a co-convener for HR and IR at CII Pune chapter, member of the CII IR Committee, Western Region, member of HR and IR Committee, Goa, Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Vice President of NIPM, Goa chapter. We're very privileged to have Naren on this show, and we really look forward to understanding how you transition from the armed forces, from the battlefield to the business. Over to you, Naren.
Thank you very much, Ranjan. It's a pleasure to catch up with you, and it's a pleasure to be on this kind of a show. Thanks for inviting me. What I propose is, instead of giving a generic kind of a transformation, so out of the 10.5 years which I had in the Indian Army, and as you had said, it is one of the elite units of the armed forces. Obviously, I had opportunity to take part in various live operations. So for today, what I propose is I'll just pick up one such operation.
Right.
I will tell you a story, a live one. Of course, there are some topographical and geographical deployments which I will not cover because those realities never change. and in the interest of safety and security of people still serving. I'll try to give you a picture of what took place, and then try to correlate it with business and also my own personal transformation.
Sure.
So here is me on the left side, some 20 years back, and then on the right side, it's a transformation to private sector, so to say. Yes. So one thing which I think all of us agree, and it has been driven home in the current scenario of COVID, is that you cannot be the same, you cannot think the same and act the same,
right,
if you hope to be successful in a world that does not remain the same. So this is attributed to John Maxwell. Times change, things change, and as human beings, we have to go on adapting and, if possible, try to stay ahead of the curve, because change is a must and it is bound to happen. So that, I think, is true for all of us. In my case, it was especially true. And I tried to pick up an example of the kids. So if you see in 2019, we told the kids you should interact, you should socialize. Anyway, they are products of nuclear family. And look at what happened in 2020 and continues in 2021. But they have adapted. Classes happen, entrance exams are happening, universities are working. So this is, but a change which they have adapted to. Yes, you may. So since Ranjan spoke about me being in the army, so I thought that I should just pick up few points from there. And like I said, I'll tell you a very short story. So this basically talks about the art of war. Some would call it the art and science of war. War is not a pleasant thing. It's serious business. It's all about survivals. And there is only one victor. The person who loses generally comes to tell the story in body bags. So it is something which is very serious and can impact people for lifelong. And that's what I will try to say in the story. So I picked up one incident. This was during the Kargil war. And we were deployed in a place which was a bottleneck and which was very, very critical to the Indian Army. And what exactly happened there? So it was all about anticipation, competitive intelligence, assessment of the situation, adapting, and then launching the attack to get the results which were desired. You may move next. The location was somewhere in Kashmir, a very, very high altitude. Most of the troops were deployed on eyeball to eyeball contact with the enemy. War was already in progress in several sectors, and this particular sector was chosen through which a counter-attack was also to be launched in addition to guarding the borders to relieve pressure in some other sectors. And this also is the turning point of the entire operation. Now, what is to be highlighted here is basically one formation was holding, but continuously vigilant and looking for opportunities. At another level, we were managing and maximizing whatever learnings we had of the terrain, of the enemy, the nature of battle ahead of us. We were also capturing a lot of data from various resources, human intelligence, satellite imagery, reconnaissance missions, our own informers who were there, entire ecosystem of human, of electronic intelligence, etc., and continuously analyzing this data and seeing whether it made sense, Obviously, there was stress, the stress of the environment, stress of the anticipation of battle, stress of what is going to happen in future, etc., etc., and also the weather, because in these areas oxygen is very less, so there is also stress on the body due to lack of oxygen. Yes, next. So this is just to give you a context. So as they say, the Desh ka Taj is Jammu and Kashmir, the crown of the country. Just to give you where it happened. Next. So this is just to show, many people do not realize that our crown is also not complete, and part of it is occupied by our adversary, and it has been like that for about 75 years now. So this is right up there in the front line. Next, please. So basically, if you see, these are the roads. Many of you now, because of television, etc., would be able to identify many of these places which are mentioned. So as you would see, the terrain is extremely difficult. There are very few lines of axes or roads. So if you see towards the left side of the slide, there is a violet line which is going. That is the border actually. Okay. And then you see some yellow lines. These are the only roads. So if you do not hold on to the roads, and if you cannot bring your equipment and manpower through these roads, then you are blocked. You cannot do anything. And the same roads will be used by your adversary when the adversary has to come into your territory. Next, please. This is the deployment. Many of you now have seen all these divisions in the television. So what is important is I was deployed in an area where there was only one road, and my task was to save a large base, and that base supplied almost 2 brigades, which is almost 22,000 people, and we were continuously getting inputs that there is going to be an attack and there is going to be an attempt to disrupt this base. So we were always on alert. And since I had served here earlier in this region, I also got hold of a lot of radio sets of the enemy which were captured. And I used to monitor this radio and monitor the language which is spoken. Usually it would be Pashto, Dari, very rare Urdu or Punjabi or Dogri. So we would have local boys to listen and to intercept. And like what we say in India, Jugaad. So we would use a trig method. So we would continuously see from where this electronic chatter is coming, and then plot that on the map and try to figure out where could be the threat. So that's the whole operation, day in and day out, 24 hours a day in very inhospitable territory. Please go ahead. So this is the exact place where the operation took place. On the right, you can see the terrain. As you will appreciate, the terrain is not very favorable because there are high mountains. There is a very narrow road, and anybody who can just make one blast can block this entire road, and your entire war effort comes to a halt. So the location was a village called Chaukibal, which is right at the border. And the brigades, 2 brigades were there, 104 and 268. 268 also is called Sentinels of the Valley because this is the brigade which protects India. Because if you cross this brigade, then you are in Srinagar actually. Okay. And there were various units put under me because I was not at that time in my unit, so I was doing a specialized job. So various units means various languages, various types of approaches, and some units which were put under me also were from police, border security, etc. for radio monitoring. There was a specialized unit from Indian Air Force, which is to do radio monitoring. So we had some support from them also. So this is a lot of information which keeps flowing. Plus, You keep going on the ground, you keep seeking information, you keep seeking firefight to see, where people are and draw them out so that you can eliminate them. And at my disposal, I had around 30 combat soldiers, which were all mixed from various units. And one thing interesting here is, luckily I knew at least 4 or 5 languages. So I could connect with most of these troops, because when the balloon goes up and things are not good, people tend to go back to their, as we would say in computer language, default setting. So they will talk in their mother tongue. So in Madras unit, they will talk in Tamil or Malayalam. Sikh, they may try to switch to Punjabi. So it always helps to know a little bit of a language. So this is the motley force which I had with me to react. Go ahead, please. Now, I don't want to go into the operation per se, but what is important is you have a huge responsibility. You have people whom you have analyzed. You know there is an attack coming. So what is it which is critical here? Because there is so much of information and there is so much of pressure. So what we need to do, or what we need to think under the circumstances, is which are the folds which you would hold. Because you cannot hold everything. As you would have seen, the resources are always scarce, and they will always be scarce, whether it is corporate, whether it is personal, whether it is army, anywhere. Resources are not always available. They are scarce. And what is important is, how do you make this judgment call? Is it just a gut feeling? Is it just your thinking on that particular day, or, just your sense? Well, actually, it is not. It is based on excellence which you have achieved over the years, year on year, with continuous processes, honing of skills, and actually live practices. And those practices, you analyze, you learn, you relearn, you sharpen your drills, you hone your, hone your reactions. And in this process, you develop some thumb rule. So what happens is, when pressure is max and when you are faced with a crisis, there will be a reaction from yourself, and it may not be always very well thought of, logical and rational, simply because the time frame available is very less. But what happens is, this practice which you have done year on year, season on season, scenario on scenario, this will help you to react in the right way. And for sake of simplicity, I am calling it thumb rule here. And this you will find in everything. You will find in martial arts, you will find in boxing, you will find in sports. People keep practicing year on year, year on year, year on year. And when that particular moment arises, subconsciously, you will be helped to make the right judgment call. And that is what is going to save the day. So it is not just some gut feeling or something which you just thought of, or some lightning which came into your head. Because rational calls in such situations will be not more than 20 to 30%. It is all your practice which is going to help you. So this is something which you can just hold as a thought, and we will come back toward the end. Next, please. Now, in this particular situation, and I would try to now correlate it with business or private sector, which now I am part of for more than 2 decades. First thing is, whenever you do a scenario planning, building, or you absorb, or you try to make sense out of what is happening out of you, you continuously look for gaps. You continuously be vigilant. You continuously keep your antenna up. Now you will have to use a multitude of sources. You will have to use open source. You will have to use special sources. You will have to have electronic intelligence. You will have to have people. You will have to have surveys done by, maybe the big 4 or, some consultant. So you continuously keep yourself occupied. You continuously look for gaps. Never ever think that you figured it all and you know it all, because that is the day where you are going to be handed over a failure, and that is where you are going to have a problem. So I have, for sake of simplicity in business jargon, we call it market study. So you go on studying your competitor, you go on studying technology, you see the adjacencies, you see other industries, what they are doing. You see unrelated events. You see how events can shape up in the future. So that is something which, as living, breathing human beings, we have to do on a daily basis. And not only in your field, in as much field as possible, because transfer from one field to another field is very, very rapid and very fast. Even before you imagine, it can happen. Second is agility, physical and mental agility. You should always be capable of processing multiple roles, and you should always have a good balance between generalization and specialization. So this is something which is very important, whether it is business or whether it is a battlefield. Like I said earlier, resources will not be optimal. You will not have all the skill sets and all the equipment and all the time at your disposal. So you will have to improvise. You'll have to see the situation and react. So unless you are able to have a fair judgment based on actions of who can fit where and how they can react to the situation, it will not be possible. Basically, we are dealing with human beings, and human beings come with emotions. So it's not like a switch on, switch off switch that, the day you meet a person, immediately you will be able to, interact and the person will give his or her best to you. So you need to be continuously with the people. You need to understand what makes them click, what are their emotions. And from there, you will draw a lot of information which you will use. And when when the chips are down, these are the people with whom you have connect, and they will come and, help you out. So that's something which we have to realize. And that's a lesson in both the battlefield and also in the business. You cannot build relationships in a jiffy or overnight. You have to be at it all the time. The next point is technology. What needs to be understood that miniaturization, digitalization, and real-time availability of information through a multitude of sources today makes it very easy for you to get information. But whether that information is usable, whether it can be converted to actionable intelligence, or you're only losing time, or you're only seeking information which makes you happy. So it's like, some of our colleagues, you can find that they are addicted to YouTube or, some game. All the time they are at it. So similarly, some are addicted to internet. You will get a lot of information. But then what is that information all about? And how are you going to use it? For that, you have to use both judgment and technology. And this is very, very important, both in battlefield and in private sector. Even if you do not have that technology which your adversary has, if you do not know about that technology, you will not be able to take countermeasures. So this is very important, because in a battlefield, the resources will be asymmetrical. Both parties will not have a like-to-like match for everything. So you need to know the other parties, what they have at their disposal, so that you can proactively either nullify it or bring in something more to fore, so that you can, tackle that issue. So that's very important. Now, the attack. So in this particular case, what happened is I kept for almost 15 to 20 days, I kept sending patrols. I kept going around myself. I kept collecting this intelligence. I kept doing the trig methodology. And I had a very fair idea that how many people are there and when is going to be the attack. Obviously, your adversary never tells you the time and place. So what we did is we placed our people in such a way that in the places where there could be an attack, because enemy always tries to attack to maximum effect, we already had deployed some countermeasures. On that faithful day, I got a tip-off, and that tip-off I got not from this entire huge infrastructure of intelligence. I got it from my carpenter. He actually came to the site around 3 in the afternoon, and he made a lot of drama at our security checkpoint, knowing fully well it will be reported to me. And he made one small chit and sent it. By just deciphering that, I could understand that he is giving a hint. And immediately, without wasting time, we went to that particular village. We laid the cordon. We knew something is going to happen. Like I told you, already resources were deployed. And we wanted to catch these terrorists, or we wanted to catch this adversary in that particular place before they escape. Because if they would have escaped in the dark, you could never have caught them. You would never know where they have put the explosives or where they were going to attack. So we had to catch them at one place. And that's what we did. Proactively went in, attacked. We tried to first warn them, as is the tradition of the Indian Army. They did not react. It was a suicide squad, we came to know later. So anyway, they would have killed themselves. And before they could blow themselves up or blow up the village or blow up any of our people, we could actually attack them and we could kill all 5. In the process, 2 of us also got injured. I also got injured, and one more colleague of ours from the Sikh battalion, he also got injured. And both of us got evacuated just by God's grace by a helicopter, which was being flown by one of my colleagues in NDA. And I just gave out a SOS message. Usually in valleys, people do not land after 4 in the evening because of the weather conditions. This guy landed and actually picked us up and took us to the nearest blood transfusion unit, which was in Srinagar. Otherwise, I would not have lived to tell the story. So here is where it's very important to go on working as though something is going to happen, and then build it as part of your capabilities, so that when the time and when that moment will arise, you will not be found lacking, and you will be able to capitalize. So the correlation here is use diversity to its maximum. Diversity is not only about gender. It's about everything. It's about skills. It's about mindsets. It's about strengths. It's about weaknesses. You need to leverage it to your advantage. You need to be very clear who is a specialist and who is a generalist, and you need to deploy accordingly. Same thing in business also. We have huge amount of people with varied skills, but sometimes we get enamored by those skills which we respect and we ignore the other skills. But when crisis comes, we are not able to utilize what is available with us. So there is some amount of psychological value to this continuous process. Second thing is, as human beings or as the situation arises, there are always these small signs which, if you are not absolutely relaxed, or if you are not following it up, or if you are not leveraging people around you, you will not read these signs. Signs are there always. In this particular event also, for almost 30 days, radio chatter was coming in multiple places. There were attacks in 3-4 places. There were diversionary attacks in some places. There were isolated attacks on vehicles. We could have easily got misled. We could have easily shifted our resources, and we could have committed ourselves before the main attack came. Similarly, in business, you need to keep your eyes and ears open. You need to make sense. You need to read between the lines. You have to be alive all the time. And then please remember, everything has an expiry date. So if you do not use your resource or faculties within that time, then that is only dead wood. That's only dead weight. You're carrying it. It's not of any use to you. So if you get an opportunity, you have the resources, you deploy it in full force, leverage the full benefits of that. Same thing is in business. Everything is time bound. You do not have endless resources, endless time. At some point in time, you'll have to bring it to the fore. You have to take a decision and go ahead. And that's what is very, very critical. That's the learning from, the battlefield into the private sector. Now, just to conclude this story, because I have not given you the entire thing, I have given you bits and pieces. It was a 6 hours operation. We succeeded in eliminating people before it was dark, because if it was dark, then we would not have been able to do it. The operations would have been shifted to another day, and maybe people would have escaped, because this area is very, very hilly, and it's very difficult to really cover it physically. So the results you can see, 5 suicide bombers of Lashkar-e-Toiba we could kill, along with the divisional commander. a lot of heavy weapons. So that means our call was right. We knew that these small attacks here and there is not the real thing. They're going after something big. So this was the evidence that we were correct, we were vindicated. So we found sniper rifles. Sniper rifles usually used 800 to 1000 meters. So that means they had some real plans with long range kind of, deployment. We found about 100 kilos of RDX. 100 kilos of RDX is good enough to blow up a town actually. So that means they were planning something big. We had rocket propelled grenades, explosive charges. These are pre-shaped charges. You just deploy it and you can activate it. And we found 5 Motorola sets. So these sets are frequency hopping sets. They got 99 frequencies and they got a chip built in which continuously changes the frequency. So unless you are able to track it, all you can get is chatter. You cannot get what exactly is being spoken. We could not crack the code, but we could find out their location by understanding the radio traffic. But this is what we found: 5 lakhs in Indian in currency, resins, energy bars, medicine, etc. From our side, it was a good operation. No deaths, no collateral damages. Indian Army is very sensitive about collateral damages, unlike some of the other, international armies. 2 battle casualties, me and another guy, the Havaldar. Both were evacuated. Both got permanently disabled. Both had to leave because of our disabilities. The entire area was secured. All operations were secured. The division which was supposed to go through us, they were cleared to go. All the dumps which were required for continuing battle for almost 6 months, so we could save it. If this would have blown up, then we could not have really, carried on with the war effort. There was no civilian casualty. Again, we are quite sensitive about civilian casualties. All operations were without losses and disruptions because we had worked in anticipation. We had honed our drills. And most important, the honor. There is a lot of honor attached to these things. So that honor remained intact. Now, again, couple of lessons which are, relevant in battlefield and also in the corporate world: trust and responsibility. Like I told you earlier also, you cannot be yatra tatra sarvatra. You have to trust your people. To gain trust, you have to train them, you have to work with them, you have to sweat with them. We have a saying in the Indian Army: more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. And you have to give responsibilities. You have to train people by giving responsibilities. Even if they fail, doesn't matter. If that happens, then when situation or chips are down, or when there is an opportunity, then people will capitalize on that, and that will straight away lead to your reputation. If you look at corporate, many of the corporates, they've got excellent systems, processes, people, but they do not respond to customer requirements. Of what use is all this infrastructure if your company is, made in such a way that the person near the customer cannot react? So that's very important, to train people, to place your trust, give them responsibilities and prepare them. Second thing is, most important, know yourself, but know your enemies even better. So you spend a lot of time on yourself, understand what is your strength. Yourself means not you as a person, your team, each and every team member. And then you need to spend a lot of time knowing your enemies. And that's exactly what is required in business also. And one of the things which we must remember is success always is a dangerous thing. Success is good, but it is dangerous also because it brings in certain amount of lackadaisical attitude. And I don't have to tell you about all companies which were huge giants few years back, and because of this success and lackadaisical attitude, they have actually either deteriorated rapidly, and many of them have also vanished. So this is very, very important. Now, some learnings, if I were to just conclude, this is not in any particular order, but just bringing things together. Diversity is a great strength, provided you know how to leverage it. You have to stay invested in it. You have to bring in the mind of the people, the reputation. At the end of the day, we live for our own reputation, our organization's reputation, our family's reputation, especially in the South Asian culture. A common vision has to be there. It has to be shared again and again and embedded. Each person in the organization or team has to reflect that common vision. You have to invest heavily in intelligence, all types of intelligence. You have to continuously reinvent yourself. If you do not reinvent yourself, you cannot be future ready. You will be dead as a dodo. You have to mobilize all resources, and never you will have a situation where all resources, what you need, will be there. But you need to leverage what is there to its full extent. And most important, while doing all this, you would actually have cultivated a winning attitude for yourself and your team. Because at the end of the day, if you do not have winning attitude, you will not come out of adverse situations. Few more learnings. There is something in organizations which is ritualistic. There is something in our personal lives which is ritualistic, sometimes considered as mundane, sometimes considered as boring. Please understand that there is something called muscle memory. Unless you go on refining your drills, processes and practices and go on practicing them, when chips are down, when your faculties are not working, you will react in the wrong way. So you go on refining your drills, go on updating and go on practicing. There is no shortcut in this, and that will become part of your muscle memory. And when chips are down, your faculty, your team will react in the right way. You have to be pragmatic. You can't win them all. So you need to be pragmatic. You need to know which are the battles you want to fight and which are the ones you want to lead by. Some learnings, I am trying to bring all of it together. Again, in not any particular order. Discipline is not a visual discipline alone. It is mental discipline. Always remember, any technology does not have only one use. It has multiple uses. Try to find out what it is and use it. Life is chaotic. There will never be an order. They will not be exactly as per what you want. Nothing is going to happen. People are not going to listen to you. They will do what they want. Yet you have to find a method in madness. Everybody is different. Please don't try to change them. Try to understand them. When chips are down, people disappear. There are no replacements. You have to use existing resource. Always be prepared to administer something called tough love. That is to yourself and to others also. So, when situation is bad, you need to be pragmatic and you need to move on. Wherever there is space, whether it is business, personal life, or in battlefield, you dominate it. You don't allow vacuum. You continuously dominate that space. You look for opportunities. Planning versus execution. Don't spend too much time on strategy and planning. Be sure about your execution, because execution will definitely get you there. Muscle memory is very important. Battlefield, there is no profit motive. So that's something which, always we have to remember. In corporate, profit is definitely a motive. Fog of war. Whenever chips are down, nothing is clear. You need to make sense out of it. Dual use technology, again, from battlefield to, boardroom. There are several technologies which are dual use. So you can always see of what use it is to you, and then you can use it. Train your team to take decisions 1 up and 2 down, and you yourself do it. So if your assistant is not there, you should know what to do. If your boss is not there, you should know what to do. Don't wait. Don't wait for some replacement. That replacement will never come. And like I said, processes and practice which develops your muscle memory, which will invariably help you when chips are down. So these are some things which I felt that is a learning. This is my photograph, as Ranjan mentioned, winning the award from the president. What I have learned is, the best performances come when you cross the threshold of fear and adversity. You need to cross it. You will not get success unless you do that, or you will not get a higher degree of success. So we need to be very clear that you need to cross this Rubicon of fear and adversity. It is personal. It is as a team. it is as a company, it is as a nation. Once you cross it, then only you will get success. Otherwise, you will remain in the mediocre run. So, Ranjan, I thought that, I would just bring to fore with some examples. So, thank you very much for hearing me out.
Well, Naren, that is very, very exhilarating and very inspiring to hear from a decorated war veteran, right? And so unfortunate that you had to quit halfway through, but defending the country with a serious injury. And I hope that you're fully recovered from that injury. And I liked some of the things that you talked about, muscle memory. You talked about, the gut feeling was a science. There's always this debate about is management an art or a science, where you told about how much important it is to practice. And it is just not about the gut feeling, but also being pragmatic and the discipline and the rigor in the practice that goes, which helps you to succeed on the battlefront, right? You talked about the intelligence cycle, agility, how we need to be empathetic, the dual use of technology, the dual technology and the digitization. And of course, you talked about the psychological value. And you gave a very nice example when you talked about reading between the lines, about your own example of the carpenter who gave you the clue to where the terrorists and the adversaries are there, right? And I think what I liked most in the end was when you talked about how your izzat was intact, right? I think the army is a standing example about, people being proud about the country, for the honor of the country. And I think that's one of the most interesting which I heard about you. I can see the passion that you bring to the table as much as you had in the battlefield, in the boardroom. And a lot of things, what you said, I think I wish we are able to implement it and practice it in the real life business world. Life will be much better than what it is today. Thank you so much, Naren. And it was a pleasure to host you and look forward to having more such discussions in the future and trying to nitpick some of your experiences and knowledge for the betterment of the society at large. Thank you.